of
Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you and welcome to Islam and Life. I'm Tariq Ramadan here in London hosting this discussion show for Press TV. In this week's program we'll be discussing about food ethics in Islam. We are fasting, this is the month of Ramadan, and we are asking ourselves, what do we eat? What is indeed halal meat? Is it only the way we are slaughtering the animals by saying Bismillah, Allahu Akbar? We start with Allah and Allah is the greatest. Is it this or is it much more than this? Is it a whole process? Is it the way we treat the animals? Is it the way we have to think about it? And at this point, as Muslims, we just have to start with a question. Should the Muslim care about what they are eating and about this issue about organic food, about ethical or ethics in the way they are eating and drinking? To help me to respond to these questions, we are joined by a panel of guests. To my right, Abdul Aziz Rajab Ali, Islamic Relief Deputy Manager. To his right, Dr. Yunus Teinaz, an environmental health expert and a fellow at the Royal Society for the Promotion of Health. And to his right, Ali Kha, the Managing Director of the Abraham Natural Produce. Welcome to you all. Thank you for being with us today. I will start with you. You are the Deputy Manager of Islamic Relief working at the grassroots level, and during this month, the first question is, as we are connected with food, what are you really doing within the Muslim community in which way you are providing, the Muslims with their need and to what is connected to the food?
Well, the main thing we're doing in terms of our Ramadan program across the world is feeding the needy. We call it the Feed the Needy program, and it's based upon Islamic Relief being able to give food parcels for the month of Ramadan so that people can get by without worrying about how they're going to feed their families. So these food parcels comprise of essential items such as rice or flour, oil and lentils and things like that. I think one of the big differences this year is that the price of food, as we all know, has gone up enormously. In some cases, more than 100%. Rice has gone up 75%, according to the WFP, I think. So the items are costing a lot more. Add to that the oil crisis. Sorry, not the oil crisis. The rise in fuel prices. It's altogether a much more expensive operation to deliver. But nevertheless, we've kept the prices as they're saying. When we appeal to the donors to support these programs, we're still asking them to pay £25 per family. So in that sense, it hasn't changed, but it is a much more expensive deal this year.
These are international programs. You are working in the South, in Africa, and Asia. You're
right.
also working in Western countries. So you are also dealing with these kind of problems within the Muslim communities in the West?
Not so much in the West. Although a contradiction to that was in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina happened.
Yes.
And Islamic Relief USA had a huge program of where they provided food for the victims, and they did that in association, actually not with mosques, but in association with churches, because the mosques were trying to do their own programs, so Islamic Relief had to team up with certain churches in order to offer food programs and shelter.
Okay, so imagine now that I am a poor Muslim in the West or in Africa. You are coming as Islamic Relief. Can I be sure, for example, that what you are providing is halal meat or halal food? And what do you call in Islamic Relief halal meat and halal food? It's an important question because this is the
absolutely.
Yes.
It's beyond that. I mean, our produce will always be local produce. The only exception.
So this is a condition. You always take local produce.
It's just, except for a few countries,
yes.
It's actually much better for the local economy.
Yes.
to support the people there.
So it's part of your support.
The animals, yeah. But also we do have a canning process in New Zealand for places like Gaza, where the food has to be kept for a long time, the meat has to be kept for a long time. So there in New Zealand there's a canning process. We have observers who advise us, and we send our own staff as well, who advise us that it's halal according to what the conditions that our scholars have set.
So you refer to some scholars who are telling you what is halal, and you follow these conditions and this.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's entirely universal or anything like that, but no decisions are taken lightly on these matters at all.
But for example, is what the way the animals are treated, or only, for example, for the meat?
It's not just about slaughtering,
Yes.
it's about how the animals are reared in the first place. Obviously certain criteria have to be observed before we'll accept animals, but I think you should note that we do the canning, the whole canning is done in New Zealand, which I believe, and I may be wrong, has a good reputation in terms of its agricultural policies.
So you care about the whole thing. And do you think that within the Muslim community these things are really seriously taken into account, or is it one of the dimension of your work as a solidarity organization?
I mean, talking generally about the Muslim community, the issue of halal meat is quite, I mean, I certainly in the Asian community, it's more about how the animal is slaughtered.
Yes, exactly.
I think how the animal is brought up and that it almost becomes a side issue, because it's almost like a luxury issue. It's almost like a middle class issue, I think. But obviously in Islam itself, it is very important. You know, we have to look after our animals properly.
But what would you say to people? Because, you know, I have myself been working on this and say we have to be very cautious about the way we treat the animals when they are alive, not only the way they are killed. And some Muslims say, look, we have so many problems, so much as an issue about poverty in our countries. This is a secondary, it's a luxury issue that you are coming with, something which is coming from the West or coming from the rich people. You are at the grassroots level. You are dealing with these issues. You are dealing with poverty in your everyday life.
Yeah.
Is it right? Is it right to put priority, and the priority is to eat first and then to think about it, or is it a comprehensive process?
In the field, as we say, it's actually there's almost like a natural procedure, because the animals feed they feed on the environment anyway. They're not fed any artificial types of feed which cause problems like we had BSE a few years ago. It's all natural. I was actually in Kenya a few weeks ago, and through one of our programs, farmers have been able to irrigate their lands, and they're growing maize, and they're also growing animal fodder as well. Now, I'm pretty certain that there will be some issues of fertilizers
But would you put it as a priority? Or is it really a secondary issue that it's...
I wouldn't say it's a secondary issue, but I would say the fact is that to factor in environmental concerns into any programs is very, very expensive. So as much as we'd like to factor them in, it would have to be a phased approach, because otherwise you'll see programs costing, say, I don't know, £500,000 study costing £1 million.
It's quite expensive.
So it is very expensive, and it's something that all the aid agencies are grappling with.
But very quickly, what would be your answer if I tell you, for example, from my viewpoint, anything which is Islamic, which is only based on technicalities and not on this comprehensive approach, and saying this is halal, it's in fact not helping the Muslims to understand the very meaning of what is halal in Islam. What is your take on this? You can understand that, or do you say it's too much?
No, we do appreciate it. We appreciate the whole concept of halal, and we have to. And I'm satisfied that, at least in the field, it's pretty much strictly adhered to, because you have to remember that these are local people raising their own animals. They've got cultures going back thousands of years, actually untouched to a large extent by Western methodologies.
Yes, it may be they're much more halal in the way we are talking about than here in the West.
Absolutely, because they're not doing this sort of high produce farming.
Yes.
They're just farming to survive.
Okay. Dr. Yunus, what is your take on his whole discussion?
Well, he's talking about small villages and small towns. It's true, it could be a natural way of animal productions and way of slaughter which could comply with the Islamic method of slaughter is halal. But if we talk about the West and about this country, we are, as Muslims, we are 3% of the population.
In the UK?
In the UK,
yes.
yes. And we consume about 30% of the produced
meat
red meat production in this country. Unfortunately, the meat which is labeled halal in this country, I can say about 95% of the meat labeled halal is not halal at all. Because halal is a complete process. To be halal is not only the way you cut the throat of the animal. Is a process, a start from the farm to the fork. Is the production in the farm, the feed you give to the animal, the welfare of the animals, the way you transport it, the way you feed it.
But I agree with this.
Yes.
I will come with precise questions on this just later on. What I wanted you just to react on is the way, for example, it's a solidarity organization, Islamic Relief, among others, and they are trying their best. They care about a comprehensive approach, but still there are needs and there are priorities. Would you accept this as we should go for the priorities first?
I think Islamic Relief, they are doing very good work all over the world. But the issue here, I disagree to feed people meat which does not comply with their belief or misdescribe it as halal. I'm not suggesting that they are doing.
Because so what you are suggesting that we have to be much more strict on it.
Yes, and also to make sure the meat is fit for human consumption. We are helping poor people. We don't want to add to their poverty by giving them decomposing meat under cover of a charity and increase the prevalence of the disease among these poor people.
That's completely right.
I'm not suggesting the Islamic Relief are doing. They are doing very good work.
But anyway, we understand that what we are saying is that we have to be very strict on it. We are not enough aware of what is happening in the business. In fact, we'll come back to this. What is your take on all this? Well, you understand that there are priorities. We'll come to you later on, but you have priorities, and here we have solidarity work.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the work that you're doing is fantastic. And obviously the sanctity of life has to come first for the Ummah. And anything we can do to help our poor brothers and sisters is excellent.
What do you mean by this? Is I follow what you are saying. This is a rule coming from Usul al-Fiqh, that the sanctity of life. But do you think that, for example, to help poor people, we could go as far as not giving them halal food because this is a priority?
Well, yes. From my point of view, if a person is about to die, then give them anything that they can sustain themselves on. Absolutely, without a doubt. I would agree with that.
But do you think that in the solidarity work we are doing enough?
Absolutely not.
No. Why?
No.
What?
There's always more we can do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a fantastic opportunity to spread charity on this earth. There's so many people suffering today, and I must commend Dr. Abdulaziz for the work he's doing. We need more of this. We need more brothers and sisters to come out and...
No, but what I meant is, can we or should we do more to change the way we speak about halal meat, even in the solidarity project?
Well, I think we have to adhere to the Sunnah and the Quran as closely as possible, but within the realities of life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for me, doesn't appear to have created everything equal. He's created degrees of everything. And so at one level, we have the highest pinnacle of what is halal, daiba, and ethical. At the other end of the scale, we have what is necessary for people to survive.
Okay, so you would accept, for example, someone telling about all this. It's a luxury concern when you are in Africa, for example. It's not our main concern, which I heard, by the way. I heard this.
No. It's, I mean, if you're an aid agency providing halal meat to Muslims, it has to be halal. But the debate of what is and what isn't halal is fairly broad, as it would seem, and certainly Dr. Tűnös has a lot for us to discover in that matter.
On this discussion about the fact that it may be that what you are doing, it's good intention, but not enough, awareness about what is really going on within the business.
I think that our staff do a really good job in terms of ensuring that standards are met. As an organisation, in Britain, we're audited by the Charity Commission. Islamic Relief delivers programs for the World Food Programme, does work with UNICEF and other agencies. In Kenya, we implement a European Commission programme. So I think in terms of the standards we work to, we're internationally recognised, alhamdulillah, and the staff are very dedicated, very aware, very experienced in their fields. Some of them most of them, at least heading the various programs, are experts in their fields. They work with other agencies like Save the Children and so on. So,
and all these, agencies care about the way we are treating the animals. When
they set the standard. So it's not a question of there's a goat there, let's go and kill it and give it to this village there. It doesn't work like that. Our programs, for example, as I said before, our agricultural programs are helping to feed the animals as well. But also, in some areas, meat is a luxury.
Yes.
You're talking about a lot of the time we're talking about maize and wheat and different types of crops. So they're being grown as naturally as possible as well. But we have to remember also that we're grappling with extreme weather now. We're grappling with drought.
So there are priorities, and
we're grappling with floods as well. So these crops have to be sustainable. They have to be resilient to these.
Okay. Thank you for that. I want you to react on this. Dr. Yunus, it's about what you are saying. You are quite tough with numbers and figures and the perception that the great majority of what we call today halal meat is not really halal, that the business is really misleading the Muslims. And mainly, you're not talking even about the Africa and Asia, you are talking about Western countries where we have the way, or we can know much better if this is really halal or not. And at the same time, you come with something which is quite important, I think, that we cannot just remove it from the picture, is that you are saying the halal process is a comprehensive process. It has a beginning and an end and maqasid, objectives that we have to respect. So why are you so tough? Is it coming from a specific take on the issue? Or are you accepting different scholars' views on that?
No. I'm battling this problem for more than 15 years now. Definitely the halal industry in this country is in a shambles.
So can you give us precise figures?
The industry, it is a very big growing industry. Will be proud to see halal meat on the shelves of supermarkets in this country and also certified as organic. But the reality is no. The meat is misdescribed as halal. The animals are stunned prior to slaughter, and there is no monitors to guarantee that they don't die as a result of slaughter.
This is a good point. This is a good point, but I want you just to take on this one, because you are saying this, which is a valid point. Why? As you know, I was talking with many scholars. I went through the whole process of what are the opinions. Some of the scholars, and serious scholars, not people that are on the margin of the community, are saying, look, there are two things. The best is no stoning. But in specific condition, when in the country you cannot avoid it, it's possible. And second, some of them are saying that you have to check what is happening, but stoning is not per se turning the meat in a non-halal meat. So this is one opinion among other opinions coming from scholars. So you would say it's not halal, while others say according to some scholars, not according to all the scholars.
Well, with my respect...
Do you accept this or not?
No, with my respect to scholars, many scholars, they issue certificates that the meat is halal just for money.
Can you say this about all the scholars?
Not all the scholars.
Some of them then?
Some of them.
Okay.
I said, with my respect to the scholars, but many of these scholars who issue fatwas, they never been in the abattoirs. They didn't see the process. They didn't even ask on the animal feed. They didn't ask even the way the animal is killed. The halal meat must be wholesome.
You mean they are not connected to the reality of what is happening?
Not connected to the reality. They are giving information, stunning, will not kill the animal. There is no scholar on earth will accept that a stunning which result of killing an animal, the animal or the meat become halal. In addition to that...
No, but it's a question of proportionality.
Yeah,
the percentage of the killed and the not killed. This is what they are saying.
If you kill thousands of chicken in 1 hour with electric shock, how you know that they don't die?
Okay.
How you know that there is no pronunciation of the name of Allah during the slaughter? How you know?
So
many certifiers here.
So, Dr. Yunus, what you are saying is that they don't know and they issue fatwa on things that are only the conditions or the theoretical conditions.
Yes.
What else gives you the right to say this is definitely not halal?
Definitely not halal, because many meat didn't go through public health controls, illegally slaughtered in remote farms. Hundreds of carcasses and thousands of carcasses enter into the Muslim food chain in this country of meat which is illegally slaughtered in a remote farm without any sanitation whatsoever. Meat got a different face and different color. If meat is not treated properly, it can cause fatal diseases and can lead to death. Issue here. The Islamic method of slaughter, or to be halal, is linked. The meat must be wholesome, must be fit for human consumption. We are more humane on the killing and slaughtering of animals than any other animal rights group, which just recently they talk about.
Yes.
We don't even show the knife to the animal before slaughter. We don't slaughter one animal in front of the other, but the animal will not see
come to this.
blood.
I will start after the break with a question about the comprehensive process, because I think it's important, and then we'll have the open discussion. We'll take a break now. But remember, if you want to join the debate or to send us a question or suggest another topic for us to discuss, please do. Our email address is islamanlife@presstv.co.uk. That's islamanlife at presstv.co.uk. We'll be back in a few minutes for more discussion.
Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert says the notion of a greater Israel does not exist anymore. Olmert says Israel should share the land with its real dwellers and push for peace with both the Palestinians and the Syrians. Former Federal Reserve Chief Alan Greenspan says the U.S. is mired in a once-in-a-century financial crisis. Greenspan says the situation is the worst he has ever seen in his career and very likely to spark a recession. The ex-central banker also predicted the collapse of more major financial institutions. U.S. Ambassador to Bolivia, Philip Goldberg, says his expulsion from the country will have serious consequences. Goldberg was expelled after Bolivian President Evo Morales accused him of supporting protests against his government. At least 30 people have been killed in clashes between supporters of Morales and governors who want more autonomy. Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega has turned down an invitation to meet U.S. President George Bush in New York. Ortega said the move was to show support and solidarity with Bolivia. He also stressed that if Bolivia's president is toppled by the ongoing protests, it would generate a legitimate armed conflict. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki says the U.S. occupation has committed so many mistakes in Iraq that the harm has been no less than terrorism. Maliki says Iraq still suffers from policies adopted by U.S. diplomat Paul Bremer in 2003. He says Bremer's mistakes continue to impede Iraq's state bodies. New Zealand has blown the whistle on the sale of tainted milk powder in China after Chinese authorities refused to act. It comes after revelations that the contamination was known for weeks before a recall was initiated. At least one child has died, hundreds taken ill after drinking the milk. And Typhoon Sinlaku has hit Taiwan with heavy rains and strong winds, causing hundreds of mudslides and canceling dozens of flights. At least one person has been killed and 14 others injured. This is the 13th tropical storm to hit the area this year.
Hello and welcome back to Islam and Life. I'm Tariq Ramadan and today we are talking about food ethics in Islam. Dr. Yunus, you were saying tough things just before the break about the whole process and that we are not eating halal meat even though we think that we are. And then you were talking and referring to something which is the comprehensive process, that we have to think about halal in a way which is not only the way the animals are slaughtered, but it's much more than that. Can you tell us something about this? What do you think should be done to get that level of quality?
I think here in Britain, we need a body which is recognized by the government who monitor the halal industry and monitor the certifiers, because the certifiers, most of the certifiers... You
mean coming from the government or coming from the Muslim community?
Muslim community, but must be supported by the government, because Muslim community cannot enforce the law. We can only suggest. And by the way, here in this country, there is no a halal definition recognized even by the Muslim community themselves. Yes. Many people, they don't agree about a halal definition. Having said that, but they agree about one thing, that the animal should not die before slaughter. But the issue, when you find meat entering the Muslim food chain and non-Muslim food chain, which doesn't go through public health control and misdescribe it as halal, it is a matter of concern.
So the whole process should be checked, in fact.
Yes. Because, you know, many certifiers, for example, they certify the meat is halal. They never ask about the animal feed, the animal welfare, the way the animal is killed, even if the knife is sharpened or not.
So
it is a serious issue. Many of them.
And serious reforms are needed. Yes.
Send me the money. I send you the certificate. The serious reforms, they start from the farm through the fork. The way it is produced, the animal feed, the way it is killed is not only cutting the throat.
That's true. I will come to that very quickly. Do you know if it's the same situation in other European countries or Western countries? It seems to be the same.
It is an international situation.
International.
Even in the Muslim countries themselves, there is an alarming situation. We got reports on many abattoirs where you find animals, you don't find hot water.
They are also importing meat from Western countries.
Yes, but the importers, they never ask about the feed of the animal. They never ask about the way it is killed. If there is a certificate, most of the certifiers, for example, there is nobody checking them.
So really you are stressing on the fact that there is a lack of seriousness in the whole process, is that we are talking about halal and it's not enough. Ali, you are very serious about this issue, and I wanted to react on this. Do you agree, and do you think that we need really serious reforms?
Well, our company was founded really to address these issues that the doctors referred to, and particularly with regard to the welfare of the animal, and how the animal's treated firstly, how it's farmed, what it's fed on, how it's brought to the slaughterhouse, and then to ensure that our animals are slaughtered in a halal way. We slaughter them ourselves, so we can actually say to our customers,
We know.
I killed that lamb, and that it was properly done.
But you started the whole process. I will come back to your specific project, but do you really think that the situation is as bad as that? That it really there is something which is misleading the whole Muslim communities?
Well, I think Dr. Yunus is in a better position than myself to advise on that. However, part of the reason that our company was set up by my business partner, Mohammed Rida, was to address the level of poor quality meat that he was finding in his halal butchers.
Yeah.
So that's what we really wanted to do, was to establish a company that producing the finest quality halal meat that's not just halal at the point of slaughter, but also with regard to how the animal's been cared for, and also respect for the product afterwards.
So this
all
is
the way
ethical,
through to the customer.
Yes, the ethical take on the whole process. Aziz, once again, I want you to react on this, coming from solidarity work, and you are dealing with NGOs at the grassroots level, and have all this discussion about the quality of food. Don't you think that any solidarity organization should have, I don't know, a section dealing with this? Is something which is really serious, because if we are providing food for the people, we also have to think about their well-being, and well-being has to do with the quality.
Well, absolutely. I can't, within the organisation, as I said, the staff implementing the projects will be well versed in what they're doing, so they'll ensure we're not going to be feeding dead animals or sick animals to the poor. We're there to help them, to save their lives, not finish them off. So we'd have to observe strict international standards as well in terms of what we implement. On what the doctor was saying, I think if we are saying that 95% of the meat in this country is not halal, then you're going to be throwing most of the Muslim population into disarray, because they are buying meat, most of them. Although you do have a few people along the way who say no, none of the meat here is halal, most of the population are trusting their butchers, and you have to think about the effect that you're having on the wider community. On a lighter note, one of the causes of the global food crisis is that we are eating too much meat, and if word gets out that 95% of our meat is not halal, then I think
medical doctors are saying it's not good.
Then we might start solving a bit of the problem.
Yeah. But on that, what is your proposal on this? We have to be cautious not to put the community in disarray and not knowing what to do. But at the same time, there are serious issues that we have. How can we solve the problem? Can you, for example, at the grassroots level, deal with the community to spread around this awareness that they have to be serious about this issue?
I think it's something, especially in the UK, it's something you need to work. Islamic Relief doesn't claim to be a representative of the community in any way or form. We don't have that mandate. But we do support community projects here. And obviously, we're all affected by the high rates of heart disease and diabetes and so on and so forth. So I think from that perspective, Islamic Relief should do what it can to feed into this and to support groups doing good work. But, we really need to move on this sort of issue. We really need independent research.
Yes, studies and also
and so on and so forth.
Governments.
So that working on empirical evidence, because if all these butchers are not selling halal meat, and then we need a definition of halal and acceptable, broadly accepted definition of halal. Then we can start making progress on this issue, because then people are breaking trade description laws and so on.
So it should also be a priority in our own way of dealing with the whole.
Absolutely, but I wouldn't want to turn the halal meat industry on its head as well, because think about the economic impact it will have on our community.
It will be very difficult.
Enormous.
Enormous. Ali, I want to come to you now on what you have been doing on that field. For years, when I was dealing with, slaughtering and halal meat, my take on this was to repeat, it's just representative of something which is a problem in the Muslim mindset today, which is to be very formalistic. We want Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. We need this, and when we have this, this is halal. You reacted, and you said this during the program, that you reacted to what was wrong in the process, in the whole business and industry, and say, we need something else. And you started by this, statement, we are what we eat, and at the same time it has a connection, which is something which is quite strong, and you want top quality, you want to change anything which has to do with the way we treat the animals while they are alive. Do you think that through this you are touching something which is essential in the Muslim mindset today? Let us start with this spiritual take on it.
Well, I think absolutely. For me, as a person who consumes my own meat, and it's very important to me to know where that animal's come from, how it's been treated. And one of the things that we believe in our company is in emotional transfer. We believe that if the animal's treated well, with respect, it's killed properly, the product's respected once it's been cut up, and the respect is shown through the whole process, with gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, that the end product will be a blessing for us.
There is a spiritual communion between the... Yes.
Absolutely, and that is very important to us in our company. But it seems to be a holistic approach, yes, from my point of view, to what is really halal meat. I think one of the problems that we have in the wider world is the Islam hasn't dictated in the Quran or how to make meat halal. It tells us what we can and can't eat, and that we must recite the name of God, yes, over it. Yeah. But there's a lot more to it than that, and we find halal today has arisen out of various different traditions throughout the world, and I think it's very important for us to remember that Islam is not a simple one-line approach to the world and life, and it respects the time and place that we're all in and the situation that we're all in. I think the best way to describe it is the generous paradigms of Islam make it possible for halal meat to come from different areas and different ways and different traditions.
So I want you to explain this. This is a very important point, but I have in fact a very simple question which requires a difficult answer, I'm sure. What is halal meat? What is halal?
Well, I think halal is your intention first, isn't it? Everything comes from our intentions. And if you go to slaughter an animal, which I do every week, I feel honoured to be in the position to carry out that act of slaughtering.
Why? Because of your intention?
Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with this, yes, wonderful meat. I mean, the organic lamb that we have is you can see it. You can actually, yes, you don't have to taste it.
You are putting within halal, you are putting the concept of organic. So, yes, for you, organic meat is halal meat.
Yeah, well, organic is a Western invention, yes, let's face it, but at the same time it adheres to the values of what is pure, clean, healthy, natural, God-given meat that hasn't been interfered with any more than it should have been by man. I think God put us here to look after the animals, to feed ourselves,
which is also connected to some of the Islamic traditions that are the way we are treating, you were referring to this, the way we are treating the animals.
Absolutely, and it's not just about making money, it's about, it's a brave man who sells meat that's not halal and claims it's halal.
So tell us, what are you doing exactly? How do you first, we were talking about the way Islamic belief and others are connected to the community. What are you doing within your farm, for example, and in which way you are connected to the community, and which kind of message do you want to send to the communities?
Well, we're really very passionate about our products and about our animals and about trying to do the best we can, fi sabilillah, with our product, and to be able to bring that to everybody in the country within reason, because we feel that to some part it's our duty. And we found that by going down the organic route, we're able to secure the quality of the meat, because it's very carefully regulated by the Soil Association that goes out and audits and inspects the farms and the land and checks the records.
All this is done.
Yes, and they come and audit us as well. We're audited, and they audit our abattoir, and they audit our butcher. So the whole way through, you've got continuity.
So what you were talking about is done there. Is that
but
is
they
checked.
don't audit the method of slaughter. Soil Association, they give the standard. to hygiene, to the animal welfare, to the process, to HACCP, to whatever relates to their standard. But they don't audit. No one is auditing. I'm not talking about his farm, by the way. He's doing very well, and I congratulate him. I don't agree with stunning prior to slaughter, but the issue here, the Soil Association will not audit the method of slaughter. Even certifiers who have certified the meat.
We were actually audited in the abattoir while slaughtering by the Soil Association for us to actually get our certificate.
So you are audited in the whole dimension of your work.
Everything, yes.
Everything
even
is
financial, everything.
Yes.
They even look to see if we,
Okay, what I want to know now is that you are doing this with, awareness in a strict way. What is the reaction of the Muslim community?
Well,
all the people should be attracted by what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, our customers
is it happening?
Are very yes. Well, we're continually getting letters saying that they haven't tasted such good meat. It's wonderful meat.
The taste is better.
The taste is better, and we have a lot of very happy customers, and our company is growing, mashallah.
It's growing.
Yes,
it's growing within the community. Do you feel that there is an awareness that this is the way forward?
I think the Western media has certainly brought animal welfare to the forefront, and as us Muslims are living in the West, that we're actually going along with that. And it's a shame for me, because I think that that really the Muslims should be leading the way in animal welfare.
And they are not.
Well, 1,400 years ago they had this information.
Yes.
So why, are we in this sorry state that the doctor's referring to today? What's gone wrong? Mm-hmm. And what do we need to do to fix it?
This is my question. You are working on that field. What do you think that we have to do to change this? Because, as I was saying, it's really just representative of the mindset of, many Muslims today is really to be obsessed with the forms and not about the substance of the things.
Well, certainly the halal meat business is driven not only by people's desire to provide halal meat, but also by money. And I think really the problems that we're seeing in the halal meat is from people's desire to profit off the back of halal meat. And what we can do as people is we can choose what we buy and where we buy it, and ask questions. Where did this meat come from? Did it have a good life? How long have...
So it's a personal take. It's really individuals that have to do that.
Our responsibility as Muslims, that we have to ask questions of our lives.
As you pray, you have to ask yourself what you eat.
Absolutely.
Yes, this is the right way. Yeah. What is your take on this? It's just really, you are critical, but at the same time, it's a call for a personal commitment to change the situation.
Indeed, but the Soil Association will not inspect an abattoir to determine if the meat is halal or not. Also, the Soil Association will not grant their logo to any abattoir who will not do stunning before killing animals. And this is a problem, because as Muslims, we don't accept stunning, most of us.
Once again,
we are entitled to eat meat which is halal, and also which is certified by the Soil Association.
Is it not a Muslim
it is
problem?
Organic issue. It is also, we live in this country. The law should prevail on everyone. The butchers, for example, as the brother mentioned earlier, that we trust our local butchers, they are misleading us. You go to any halal butcher, you find it like a mosque. The holy Kaaba, the holy Mecca photograph, the Quran, his bird is here, henna on the bird. But what is there? The meat which is selling, most of it even unfit to give it to a dog. Forget to...
But it's quite tough what you're saying.
Indeed, I got evidence. And there is here the shops, the markets.
So in fact, it's not. I was asking you about what we should do, and in fact, you were speaking about governments and facilitating and controlling, and in fact, we have to change. We have to work within the community. It's a question of education. It's a question of this is what you are saying.
Yes.
It's not the government. It's not going to change the. This attitude towards profits that you are talking about is really the problem.
Many local authorities, they don't enforce the illegal meat situation. The government did a lot. The food standard agency in this country did a lot. But we as a community, as a Muslim organization, we want to do more. We want to eat meat which is fit for human consumption, and if it is described as halal, must be halal.
Yes.
Because many certifiers, they just issue certificates for money.
Yes.
And this
Abdelaziz,
is a shamble, and this is a fraud.
Abdelaziz, are you dealing with the same problem? Is that the Muslims and many Muslims working in this area are really profit-oriented, and this is what they are trying to get?
I think there are more and more butchers who are trying to sell a more honest product. But I know that I've also heard, and I think there have been documentaries on this issue of halal meat. There was quite a big one maybe last year, I think, about it. The thing is, in the end, we are very close to the community, and in the end, it's what something costs. It comes down to that simple fact: how much does a pound of meat cost? So,
but is it right? Is it right that is it not? The objective and the ends, the goals, why we are. Yes, it costs, but at the same time they are objective. That we are trying to please the one, to please God, and to try also to understand.
Absolutely, and I'm very impressed with what Ali's doing, and yes, I wish it was all like that. I honestly do, but. It'd be interesting to know what a pound of meat from Ali costs compared to a pound of meat on my local high street.
That's a good question. It's more expensive.
It's very much more expensive.
And also, very much more.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Okay,
and I
so
think
you have to pay the price.
You've got the two ends of the scale, which is great, because you've got the sort of the emergency band-aid,
yes,
where we're going in, got to rectify a problem, save lives. Right. And we've got the other side, which is ourselves, Abraham Natural Produce, which is looking at providing the best quality that we can on this planet.
Okay.
And obviously there's going to be a difference in
But how much, for example, is the double?
Quadruple, I would say.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so this is why it may be far from your concern.
Yeah. But then you see, you have me in the abattoir individually killing each animal, making sure that it's treated properly.
But is it realistic?
Rather than a factory approach.
But is it realistic? Can we have this for the whole community?
Well, this is the problem.
It's not realistic. We cannot.
I think we need to have the blueprint of what is possible for us to then look at what we can do for the whole community and how we can approach the community.
Yes.
And maybe people might think, well, maybe I'll eat less meat, red meat, because it's better for me, and buy something a bit more expensive. Yeah. Then go.
Dr. Yunus, you are quite critical with all this. Which kind of meat are you eating?
Well, I don't eat meat at all.
Okay, you decided that it's too much.
From what I have seen, it is alarming. Of course, you need to eat meat. Meat is a very good source of protein, but not the way that the meat is seen in the most markets. Organic is very expensive. For example, for many people when they go to markets, they look to the price. And also people, they got the habit when they see meat without a stamp or meat is decomposing, they don't report it to the local authority. They should report it to their local authorities because local authorities are under legal obligation to investigate.
So, but all what you have been going through years now just led you to decide I'm not going to eat meat.
Yeah, because where you find firstly halal, secondly organic, non-stunned, and all this criteria is very difficult to find. I don't want to waste all my day looking where is halal and where is non-halal meat.
Ali, what is your take on this? It's preferable not to eat meat than to eat the meat that we have in the market today. Would you agree with this?
Well, I was of the same opinion really as the doctor. That I was eating less meat until I've discovered our company that it was there's plenty of fish. Alhamdulillah.
Which is all halal, alhamdulillah. Yes. And you, still eating with no problem?
I'm still eating, but I think it's good for all of us to eat less meat. I mean, it's a fact in terms of dealing with the world food crisis that if we could all do with eating less meat. I think one of the ways forward then is to encourage more enterprise in terms of what Ali's doing, but also to lobby so that the stunning issue is dealt with satisfactorily, but you never satisfy everyone. So.
Yes, thank you for that. I really think that this debate is so important because it's representative really of what is going on within the Muslim community. We have rules and we have conditions and we have intentions, and what we're trying to do here is to ask ourselves, and during this month of Ramadan it's quite crucial to ask ourselves, what are we eating and why are we eating, and to make it clear that halal is much more than only slaughtering, or it's much more about the way we treat the animals, the way we are dealing with the whole process of nature, environment, and then treating the animals in the right way to eat and to know, because I think it's quite important thing, we are what we eat. And this is coming in fact from the Islamic teaching. This is exactly the Islamic teaching. This is the holistic approach that we need, and then this education that is needed in the community. The most important thing is not only the profit, is not only what it costs, but also the way it has been produced and in which way we are in fact trying to please the one through the spiritual process, which is to respect the animal, to respect nature, and to respect ourselves in the way we are eating. I'm afraid that's all we have got time for today, but if you want to join the debate or suggest another topic for us to discuss, our email address is islamanlife@presstv.co.uk. That's islamanlife@presstv.co.uk. See you next week, inshallah.
Good and evil are not alike. Repel evil with something better, and lo, he shall become a bosom friend who used to be your long-time hater.
The top stories this hour: Israeli Prime Minister tells his cabinet the legend of Greater Israel is dead. Also this hour, in the United States, former Fed says the country is mired in a once-in-a-century financial crisis.